A few years ago, I took my first international trip. We went to London to visit some friends for a few weeks. Saw the Tate Museum. We took the train to Paris for a couple days, saw the Eiffel Tower. We got some bread and cheese and dates from the local market and ate them there at the foot of the Eiffel Tower. It was an unseasonably warm day. I was there with my wife. It sounds fantastic, right? I'm sure it was. I wish I remembered any of it. I basically slept the entire trip. Welcome to Mr. Snail's Wild Ride. I am Mr. Snayl, and as always, the wild ride is my life so far. You hear the ads all the time, right? Climb mountains. Fun, adventure. Take a memorable trip to Boston. Explore the world. Sandy beaches. Ski slopes. Tropical paradise. Find big excitement. No. That's not for me. Now, the problem wasn't just jet lag. A few times here at home, she needed to go to the ER in the middle of the night, and she wound up having to drive herself. So apparently I'm one of those guys that sometimes is a very sound sleeper. My wife and I were talking about this recently, and I'd forgotten how excited and overwhelmed I got at all the weird and new things that I saw when we were in London. Even though the United Kingdom is an English-speaking country and it's relatively familiar with respect to international travel, when we were out and about, I was constantly pointing out every unusual car. Oh, look at that one. That's a Ford, but we don't have that in the States. It must be some kind of different safety regulation that they don't meet. Oh, look at that one. It's a Renault. I remember hearing about those when I was a kid, but we don't have those in the States now. Some unusual model of Volkswagen that we don't have. Oh, and the telephone numbers too. I don't know what's going on. They're not always the same number of digits, and they don't always divide the digits up the same way. It's not always like 3, 3, and 4. The area codes, there's like all different numbers of digits. Some area codes are 2, and some are 3, and some are 4. It's crazy by our standards. There's another one. Oh, and that one's different on the bus, and that one's different on that. It was out of control. And I couldn't shut up. Several very salient moments that stick out in my mind, but not enough to constitute the 2 weeks that we were there. Apparently, I was not around for a lot of it. Now keep in mind, this was before I was diagnosed with Asperger's. I'm not entirely sure when we figured out the connection, but it was another trip sometime after that one that involved an airport. By the time we arrived wherever it was that we were going, I was completely exhausted again. So in general, I don't like traveling very much, certainly not by air, so I don't do it very often. And, I don't have a lifestyle that warrants very much travel either, so it doesn't happen very often. So we don't have very many opportunities to try to mitigate my difficulty with traveling. A couple of months ago, we went to Los Angeles to visit some friends, and that obviously involved an airport. This was an apartment we'd never been to, so that was going to be a lot of new and stress all at once. And so my wife made a point of scheduling an extra day at the front end to give me a chance to sort of veg out, try to recoup some energy. I made arrangements with those friends to take care of me, basically, make sure that I was fed, and just generally leave me alone for that first 24-hour period. And it helped, but it was definitely not enough rebound time, unfortunately. I don't get to see these friends very often, so believe me, it was not my preference to spend time laying around when I could have been visiting. So why all this talk about travel? Not because I'm going on a vacation. As of this air date, it's about 8 weeks until the 2014 Playlist Live gathering in Orlando, Florida. Playlist Live is a convention type thing for creators and supporters of online video. It's a lot like VidCon, which happens in Anaheim, California in the later part of the summer. I'll put some links in the description below. This is my first time going in any capacity. It's a humongous event. It's kind of a big deal. It's a huge deal to me, and I am freaking out for obvious reasons. So in this case, my wife and I have planned to arrive 2 days in advance and to stay an extra 2 days after it's all over, just to give me some time to recoup and to gather myself afterward. Hopefully that's enough time. Hotels are expensive, boarding the pets are expensive. We'll see. Life is just sort of this endless stream of changing variables, and I wish it weren't. When you're on the spectrum, you're just constantly strategizing and sort of hoping for the best. So this is where I'm at now. If anyone out there has any recommendations or success stories or strategies or tricks that they've used for making travel less painful, please share those with me in the comments below or tweet me or on my Facebook page, anywhere. I'd appreciate it. Subscribe, please, if you haven't already. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. Pizza out. Took the train to Paris. My wife and I were talking about this recently, actually, how and I've only been to Los Angeles one other time for just a couple of days, so believe me, you know, just believe me. Convention gathering thing that happens over the course of 3 days. Come on, you know this information. I'm not like making it up as I go along. Playlist Live is like a convention, a 3-day weekend. Playlist Live is like a 3-day weekend convention thing that happens in Orlando, Florida every year.